welcome to Before Floor, the pregame edition of Five on the Floor, brought to you by the Five Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Jonathan, aka Three Piece Combo, and from the podcast itself, we're joined by Mr. Alex Toledo. How you doing, my man?
Doing well, man. I'm just glad to be here early for pregame. It's a new experience for me. Glad to be on.
Yeah, first time having it on this season, but you'll probably see him on more this season.
No
And of
doubt.
course, from the normal crew, we got Gad and we got Mateo as well. Now, first of all, definitely want to wish a happy Diwali to all my brown folk out there celebrating Diwali. So happy Diwali for everybody. And make sure you guys, if you're coming in, if you're sitting down, make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Five Reasons YouTube channel. And then also make sure you guys check out Mark Brown PA. He's our primary sponsor of the pregame show. That's marcbrownpa.com. If you're young, with a family and you want to make sure your assets go to the right people if something were to happen to you, reach out to Mark Brown. He's going to make sure that all your financial assets are taken care of. They go to the right people. If you reach out to him, give him a call at 954-866-8513. He's based out of North Lauderdale. He services the entire arena area, and he's also a Heat fan. So make sure you support a Heat fan and not somebody who just, is a Celtics fan or a Knicks fan who just moved here to avoid taxes. So like I said, go to markbrownpa.com. That's marcbrownpa.com. Or give them a call at 954-866-8513. Now, if you want to play some daily fantasy, the spot for you guys is going to be Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. Make sure you use the promo code 5. We'll double your deposit up to $100. So that's FIVE. That's the promo code. It's daily fantasy. So it's super simple. You pick a couple players. You'll pick if they go over, under on points, rebounds, assists. You get to pick which one you want to do. And if they hit on them, you get your money. And if you don't, that's how the betting works. But the cool thing is, if you don't on just one of your plays, you can flex play it and you still get to make some of your money back. So that's the best part about it. It's the best way to go play daily fantasy. Make sure you use the code 5. Guys, here we are, game 4, right? This is kind of make or break when it comes to this homestand and how we're going to start the season, because you don't want to go into the road trip 1-3 coming off of a home game, especially when we were so good playing at home last season. So, Alex, I'll start with you on this one. Last game, I think we saw the best version of the Miami Heat's offense in that second quarter when we closed out that the half on a 19-4 run. What did you see during that period that made the Heat successful that we didn't see for earlier this season?
I don't know if it's the easy cop-out answer, but I guess shooting. And that's the thing that's kind of been one of the things, just for the past few seasons. It feels like since they're so good at setting up their shooters, which they have plenty of, especially during the season when guys still remember how to shoot at a consistent rate, and, at a high level. Like, I just think that's something that can be up and down sometimes, even though they're in the elite tier pretty much with 3-point shooting every season since Jimmy has been here. That's just one of the things that it's the most variant factor when it comes to basketball. So if that's something that you're depending on a lot, which you talked about on 5 on the Floor plenty, it can be up and down. So I don't have the exact shooting numbers in front of me from that run, but yeah, that's just kind of, I think, the question with the offense this season. If you are going to try to lean offense, is how much of that is going to be around 3-point shooting. But I will say they're 7th in rim percentage right now as far as getting to the rim, even though it's only been 3 games. That's exactly what we wanted to see as far as what they can change to their offensive balance. So, good to see that.
Yeah, the numbers around the rim, I definitely want to give probably Tyler Herro some credit. I think he's 3rd in the league on points per possession when it comes to pick and roll right now. He's an absolute monster when it comes to dissecting a defense in the pick and roll situation, especially when you have the best screen setter in Bam Adebayo setting screens for you as well. Mateo, what else did you see in that first half from the Heat game last time that you didn't see earlier this season that stood out to you?
Well, Jonathan, piggybacking off what Alex said, the Heat used 8 players, but 7 of them shot 50% or better from the field. And also, that'll beat a lot of teams, or certainly get a large lead on a lot of them. But defensively, the Heat were effective in all but 2 spots, containing the restricted area and the corners. Every other spot, the lane, the mid-range, the top of the key, and the wing areas were covered well by Miami. Just those 2 spots, the restricted area and the corners, were just the price Miami paid. But that's what I thought and saw from them. Thank you.
Yeah, now when it comes to the defense, tonight's going to be a little unique when it comes to the struggle we're going to have. I mean, we already knew we were small, but no Caleb Martin, thanks to an excellent double leg, taking down his opponent. And no Nikola Jovic. Before he even sets foot on the court, he is stamped as a Heat lifer for getting suspended. With that being said, though, we're pretty thin when it comes to the power rotation. Gad, Where do the Heat lean when it comes to that 4 spot, and where do we go when it comes to the bench?
No one wants to hear this, but Haywood Highsmith is going to get some run tonight. I think he's better than has been let on. The minutes at the 5 is just setting him up for failure. I think he'll be all right. Nothing special. I think of him as kind of like a Jay Crowder, light. And that's really what you're going to get from him. Little like average defensive versatility and whatnot. And I think he'll make an impact. But the player that I'm excited to see is Jamal Cain. I think he's going to be active tonight. I think someone posted a video of him warming up, and he looked like he was in gear, which he was not doing on Saturday. So Jamal Cain plays. That could be a jolt of energy that this team could use. If you're going to use him, I'd love to see him match Precious's minutes, whether Precious is at the 5 or at the 4, whatever it may be. Pretty much just stick him on Precious and tell him to be an Energizer Bunny. If he does that, I think that can help this team a lot. And another thing is, for some reason, the Heat, and talked about this with Jimmy in the press conference, the Heat feel comfortable with Kyle guarding 4s. So we're going to see a lot of that tonight, maybe more so than usual, which honestly, I'm not opposed to. He's probably a better wing defender as opposed to a point of attack defender now. So that's really going to be their point of attack, or their plan of attack, in my opinion.
Alex, where do we lean to for the power rotation?
I mean, look, he had plenty of 4s. If you really think about it, they've got Max Strus, they've got Duncan Robinson, they've got Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. Like, anybody can be a 4 if you really think about it. No, but
wow,
seriously, I think
UD
Highsmith. No, UD is definitely in that conversation for sure.
That's nasty.
No, but for real, since it's disappointing that Jovic can't play, I would love to see Jamal Cain play. Not sure if he will, just because we've seen Spo already go with some lineups where he's playing Duncan or Max as a theoretical 4 next to Jimmy, even though he's more of a 4 than those guys or whatever. So the fact that he's willing to play those lineups so much already tells me that they don't need that many more minutes. And so I think Highsmith will fill in enough. And if we see Jamal Cain, that's great. Like, I would love to see him play even more. I'm just not sure yet, like, where Spo stands on him as far as playing him in the regular season rotation. He could still be higher on Highsmith, even though Jamal Cain probably outplayed him in the preseason. But yeah, I think, as Spo would say, and I wasn't able to make it on time for pregame media availability, but as Spo probably said, we have enough.
Yeah, always have enough. I mean, this team has shown, through multitudes of seasons, that no matter how undermanned we are, the next man is willing to step up. But we also have somebody that I think, people, would say he had a decent game. In my opinion, I don't think he's having the games that he should be having for what we're paying him. We know the impact that he makes on the court as far as the intangibles, the defensive versatility, the setting screens. But Bam Adebayo can't just have 10 points and 7 rebounds, in my opinion, Mateo. I feel like Bam needs to be, the team, it's a split, it's both, right? The team needs to put him in position to score, right? But he also needs to look to score as well. Like, it's coming from both sides. It's not just one thing. Do we see bounce back Bam tonight? Do we see a little bit better of an impact from Bam tonight?
Scoring, absolutely. He only took 6 field goal attempts in his last game. And at media day, I think he said he wanted to take around 17 or 18, which would give last game's output like a third. But, I think he is going to do that. They need to run some more pick and roll with him and Tyler, with him as the roll man. That needs to be a staple of the offense. I think he's going to play a lot better on that end of the court. But for the rebounding part, I don't think so. He's going to be matched up with Pascal Siakam a lot unless Toronto is bombing away from the perimeter and creating a long rebound. I don't think he's going to have more than 8 tonight.
Good.
Nah, I'm with Mateo. I think the scoring is going to turn up a little bit. Like, I think Bam probably gets closer to 20, maybe like 22 points tonight. Just by virtue of getting in pick and roll. Like, every time we saw that action with Herro, it worked. So like Mateo said, make it a staple. Use that as much as you can and put Bam in position to succeed. There's a lot of time. Well, last game, I think it was twofold, like you did say, Ramlakan, but there was times where he caught the ball in the post, had a mismatch, and he would bring the ball down. Van Fleet would swipe it, and then it would be a scrum for the ball, and it'd be a jump ball or it'd go out of bounds or whatever it may be. Don't want to see that tonight. Catch it high, keep it high, just go up. That's one of the things you want to see from Bam. It's one of those fundamentals. And then also, you just want to see them try to get him in positions to succeed. There was that late shot clock where Jimmy was trying to ISO for like 10 seconds, then just tossed a hot potato to Bam with like 2 seconds left on the shot clock maybe, and just like setting up for failure. And that was one of his 6 shot attempts of the game. So I'd like to see him get involved more in the offense, earlier in the offense. Give him the ball with like 10 to 14 seconds on the shot clock as a scorer Don't just give him the ball to then give it to someone else. Like, try to enable that facet of his game. Now, where on the floor you want to do that? I mean, you could work the elbow, you could work the baseline. Personally, I prefer the baseline for Bam. I think it's the best way to do it with him, and try to go from there.
Now, before we touch on the rest of the Heat, I want to touch a little bit on Toronto, right? We talk about how tough it is when you're playing a team back to back to beat them both times. Toronto made adjustments in that second half. Obviously, the Heat were playing a lot more isolation ball, shooting themselves in the foot that made Toronto catch up. But Toronto did do a lot of good things to allow themselves to catch back up in the game. Alex, what adjustments do you see from Toronto tonight that makes this game more competitive?
The adjustment part is a little bit tough to predict, not only because Nick Nurse is one of the most wild card, unpredictable coaches in the league, or at least that's the reputation he has, right? But other than that, like, I just think their roster is built the way it is for reasons. He can do whatever he wants, similar to what you would like to see from the Heat sometimes. But the Heat have some more roster limitations, I think, defensively than the Raptors do, and so I think it's less about a game plan for them and more about containing Jimmy Butler, which has kind of always been their issue. Raptors fans have pointed this out, that Jimmy has notoriously been a Raptors killer. And although Jimmy didn't go off last game, I was looking at some stuff from last game just to own up to some of the mistakes I've already said here. They only made 3 threes in that second quarter, where they really outscored the Raptors by 16 or whatever it was. What really was kind of standing out there was Jimmy getting to the line 6 times that quarter, which is right. That's something that Jimmy has been doing since he's gotten here. But just to go back to the rim rate stuff, where they've done a decent job at getting to the rim despite their high turnovers and their lack of a good offense or defense overall so far. They're trying to get to the rim, which is something we wanted to see. And so Bam has kind of been up and down, but I'm going all over the place. And I also said, because I just want to own up to everything, right? So the last 5 on the floor, I mistakenly said that Bam Adebayo got 11 field goal attempts. It was 6, like Mateo said. I'm pretty sure that 11 was from the night before against Boston. But that's what these back-to-backs do to me. Like, it just has me all over the place. So I just want to own up to those mistakes. But as far as the Raptors' defensive game plan, I don't see much of a change, especially now without Scotty Barnes, right? So I just think don't let Jimmy dominate you again at the free throw line, and they'll probably try to contain everything else from there.
Mateo, I'll go to you on the same question, but I also want to throw a little caveat. Do you think with the amount of fouls that the Raptors got, do you think the refs maybe hold their whistle a little bit more this game? Because sometimes we see an overcorrection when it comes to things like that. Not that they were getting bad calls. I think most of every foul that was called was pretty correct, right? Obviously, there's always going to be a couple, but do we see an overcorrection when it comes to the refereeing? And also, what adjustments do you think the Raptors make tonight, especially with no Scotty Barnes?
I have no idea if the refs will correct themselves, but they were every bit as dominant as Pascal Siakam in the last game. Now, in terms of adjustments, Toronto has an extra day, got a day of rest. They're not playing on a back-to-back anymore, and they arrived at Miami on Saturday at 4 a.m. I'm sure they were fatigued in that game, but whoever starts at the 4 position, I'm sure is someone who they will try to go after in the pick and roll. I don't expect Van Vliet to shoot 2 of 9 from the field. Some of his shots, to me, that missed and hit the iron looked like tired legs. So I don't think fatigue will be so much of an issue there tonight for them. But that's pretty much what I got. Yeah.
Yeah, before we get to the rapid fire real quick, Max Strus has been the 6th man for the Miami Heat. He's not just been shooting the ball, like the cutting he's been able to do, the help side defense. I mean, he got his first block of the season last night. Just the little things he's been doing really, really well. He's flowing into the offense a lot better, in my opinion. Do we see the continuation of the Max Strus magic tonight?
Like, define magic. Are we thinking, like, is that like 18 plus?
Leading the bench in scoring, I would say.
Leading the bench in scoring. I'm going to go no, actually. I think one of Gabe or Duncan will probably lead the bench in scoring tonight. Not that Strus is going to play poorly. He'll probably give you like 12, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I think this is going to be the type of game where you're going to need a lot from Bam. And I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
All right. So before we get to predictions, we're just going to do a couple of quick rapid fire. Alex, I'll start with you. Surprise player for the Heat tonight.
You know what? It's tough to say because Gabe and Max are both so good, and I think those are one of the two guys I would probably pick just because they're coming off the bench and they've both been so reliable over the past couple of seasons. But I might say Duncan Robinson, man. It's been a while since he's kind of stood out, and even though he's played relatively well in the short amount of minutes, right, the short amount of playing time, I should say, that he's gotten so far, I just think he's one of those guys that on any given night could have a game where he blows up from three, and I think he might be one of those guys who just eats off of teams who maybe don't care about him as much, right? Like I know teams are still going to try to run him off the line, and he's done a pretty good job countering that over the past, however many weeks since this season started or whatever. We've seen him develop that, but I think, when teams are focusing more on Jimmy Butler, Tyler Herro, Max Strus, Max and Gabe both killed them last game, so maybe Duncan is just lower on that list of priorities and he can eat off of that. It's just tough to say because the Raptors have so many great defenders and just big, long bodies, right? Like when Van Vliet is not on the floor, they're just huge, and the Heat have notoriously struggled against that. But regardless of on paper size, like the Heat out-rebounded them by 7 last game. So maybe some of that comes the other way, and that, takes the Raptors to a win here. But I think the Heat have enough. Again, not to go back to the Spoisms, but yeah, like I just think they've shown a lot of good stuff. And even though you look at their offensive and defensive rating right now, which is 16th and 18th respectively, which is not good. It's only been 3 games. That's nothing to really worry about right now. I think they're going in the right direction. I think that's the sunshine pumper way of putting all this.
Mateo, surprise of the night?
Gabe Vincent, Kyle Lowry's understudy. I don't think he's as poor of a shooter as 1 for 5 dictated from the last game. I think he could do a little better job of staying in front of his man. He's my sleeper for tonight, Jonathan.
Yeah, I finished that off. And I also want to thank Darius Jordan for the $5 dono. He said, Gad, what will it take, man? So finish that question off and then start us off on predictions.
The question was the surprise player for the Heat?
Correct.
I'll say Haywood Highsmith gives us 8 points tonight. The most impactful 8 points you will ever see in your entire life. I could say that much. I don't even know if he's going to play. He could start. He could get 0 minutes. Who knows? But it's going to be a fun experience seeing how they handle that 4 spot. But you want my prediction for tonight's game?
Correct.
So I'm going to say 2 things. I think, one, the X factor, what can swing this game for me, actually isn't even on the Heat. I think it's OG Anunoby, because they're going to ask him to do a lot more with Scotty Barnes being out. So if OG has a good game, Toronto will probably win. But I'm going to take the Heat tonight. I think someone catches fire off the bench. Most likely Duncan Robinson. Like, he's tall enough to shoot over the length that they have, and it won't bother him as much, in my opinion. We could get one of those games. He might be one of those players that we just rely on more. And I think the spacing of having a Duncan Robinson get more minutes as opposed to a Caleb Martin on the floor could actually end up opening things up a little bit for the Herro Bam 2-man game, which is something I really, really want to see them rely on tonight. So I'm going to take the Heat in a close game. I think it's going to be another rock fight the way it was in the second half and the way it's been over the last few times that we've played them. Honestly, every single time it looks like these teams come out battered and bruised. But it's fun. It's good to watch. It's good to watch. Stressful, but it's good to watch. I'll take the Heat tonight, though. Probably by 4.
By 4? Mateo?
I'm going to take the Heat tonight, in large part because I see a huge game from Bam Adebayo on the offensive end, not just taking a lot of shots. I think he's going to get to the line and slow down things in the half court for Toronto on the other end, just mucking things up. But I got a huge game from him tonight. Heat win.
Take us home, Alex.
You're on mute, sir.
You're on mute, buddy.
Classic.
That's crazy.
Great professional move by me as I'm sitting here in the arena. No, but seriously, I had him going 1-1 against the Raptors in this little series here because I think there's going to be a lot of them this season, the way the NBA has set it up. And so it's cool to see because you get to see a team adjust, especially like I said before, Nick Nurse and Spo. But I had the Heat losing last game, and I thought they were going to win tonight. But since they won last game, I'm going to say they lose tonight, and especially because all you guys said they're going to win. I think they're going to lose. It's tough to beat a team twice in a row. The Raptors are one that's especially tough to beat twice in a row. I think Scotty being out helps the Heat, but I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they get off to a 1-3 start. And look, because I said it last game, even though it was privately, I'll say it again. They're going to lose. So maybe that means they end up winning.
Yeah, I was gonna let you finish the show, but I can't end it on that note. Although being realistic, this team could be 1-3 after tonight, right? And it's not going to be the greatest position for us going to a road trip, but at least we're encountering these problems early in the season, so we can make the adjustments now rather than when it's going into the playoffs. So I'm happy that we're going through these whatever pains right now rather than later. I'm going to take the Heat to win. I think not having Scotty Barnes is really going to help us, like you said, Alex. Offensively, it's just going to be a little tougher for them. I think Miami is starting to gel a little bit better defensively. I mean, we talked about the 19-4 run. We held them to 4 points in 9 minutes. Like, that's a great defensive stretch. I think the Miami has to continue to rely on that end. The first possession of the game, when Toronto missed a shot, we saw 4 guys in the paint boxing out. We need to do that again. I think if we do those 2 things again, we can replicate what we did last time, and I think we can get the win. Now, everybody, make sure, like I said, make sure you guys, if you like the Miami Heat content, if you think we're going to win, make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys subscribe. And also check out prizepicks.com. Use the promo code 5 and go to markbrownpa.com for all your financial planning. Alejandro, take us home, my man.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us here on the pregame show. And let's now listen to what the players said after their first win of the season a couple of nights ago against the Toronto Raptors. Let's start with those videos, and then we'll listen from Bam Adebayo and Caleb Martin talking about his suspension and all that's going on tonight with the Miami Heat. So let's start our second part of the pregame show, listening to what Kyle Lowry said after their win against the Toronto Raptors. Here we go.
Former team, I'm going to always mean a little bit more, maybe.
Not at all. Honestly, I mean, I love those guys over there. Honestly, I love the coaching staff. I love the players. I love the organization. It's not extra. It's just us trying to help our team win basketball games down here.
Kyle Spoelstra mentioned a bunch of times, or called Gabe kind of your understudy.
Good question. All right, see you later. All right.
Gabe has mentioned a bunch of times how he's tried to learn from you. How have you seen Gabe?
Say that one more time.
Gabe has mentioned how he's tried to learn from you over the past year. Spo calls him your understudy of sorts. How have you seen Gabe improve in his role over the past year?
I think he's just finding his way to be himself and be involved in understanding who he's going to be, how good he can be, how talented he can be. He asks a lot of questions, but he's also very smart. And he's a hybrid. He's one of them hybrid guards who's a scorer, but he can do both in leadership and still get everybody involved, but still get his. So he's just continuing to find himself. And I mean, he's still young, so he got a lot of upside and a lot of potential.
Do you notice a difference in guys like that after they've gone through one playoff run?
Yeah, I think it's just he had a lot of time on the floor last year with me being hurt. I think that the experience just kind of builds his confidence even more, and he's just only going to continue to get better.
How much more confidence do you guys feel in Max on the defensive end, just with what he did?
I think we're confident in all our guys. I think Max, he's just big sturdy body. I think he just makes the right plays. I think he puts himself in the right position. I think when we play good team defense, we all trust each other.
And then yesterday you were speaking about getting more threes up. How did you feel about the looks you guys got tonight?
How many did we get up?
30.
30 what?
30.
It's not enough. So that's how I feel about it.
Fair enough.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, that was Kyle Lowry again talking about right after the game. The Miami Heat won the first game of the season a couple of nights ago against the Toronto Raptors. Let's continue with our coverage tonight. We're waiting for the starting lineup. Remember, no Caleb Martin tonight, so the Miami Heat will have to adjust and do something different as they prepare to face the Toronto Raptors for the second time in 3 days. Let's listen to Jimmy Butler now. Let's start with Jimmy Butler and what he said about that particular game.
Pressure just in general over the last 2 games.
That's
just
our man, Caleb.
Working the offense in different
Brady
ways.
Hawk.
What is that opening up, I guess, for you and the rest of the offense?
I mean, when he's aggressive, obviously making shots that helps us. But he's also be getting everybody involved, making all the right reads, and that's just showing how he's grown as a player. He always will be very key to us on the offensive side of things. But he's getting better defensively too. So the more games he plays, the more comfortable that he's going to get, and he's already hella comfortable. So only way is up from here for him.
I was also going to ask you about Max defensively tonight. He did a lot of good things offensively, but just the rotations defensively, kind of swinging over from weak side to get the charge. Just what have you seen growth on that end from him, and just what does that change, I guess, for you guys defensively?
Max wants to get a stop, and he cares because he knows that if he doesn't, we're going to get on his tail about it. I did not say a cuss word. You're welcome. And so he definitely tries to do right. He knows where he's supposed to be at on the floor. He's strong. He moves his feet pretty well. And he got some key stops tonight, and he's going to need to do that because, you know, he's also going to be a key part of his rotation. We all know that he can make some shots, but if you can get stops, it's going to be really hard to take you off the floor.
Jimmy, a game like this, is the takeaway that you were good enough to get up 24 on a really good team, or is the takeaway we've got to find a way so it doesn't get back down to a 5 or 6 point game?
Takeaway is we won. We got our first dub of the season, and we take them as they come. We living with that. Yes, we can be better, but like I always say, I'd rather learn from wins than from losses.
And then someone like Gabe and the way he played with Kyle at the end. And, you know, Spo always tells us he's a combo guard, but yet last year was a lot of either or. Kyle was injured. Gabe was really good against the Atlanta series. Kyle came back. What do you see from Gabe as a growth of a player, as a combo guard, and that he can be with Kyle or step in for Kyle?
Gabe is good. He can shoot the ball. He can finish well around the rim. He plays with a lot of energy. He knows damn near every play from every position. I mean, I like him and Kyle playing together. It gives Kyle the opportunity to play off the ball, come off pin downs. Gabe's so unselfish. He's trying to give him the ball and get everybody involved. I mean, that dude's been working for however long now to prove that he belongs to play in this league, which he does. And I think on, you know, many other teams, he could even be a starter. But I'm glad that he's on my team.
Staying on the topic of Kyle and Gabe, defensively, their ability to guard up, that versatility, how does that impact the defense, and how does that make your guys' job easier?
It actually makes our job really simple. Kyle always want to guard forwards for some reason, but good for him because I don't want to go down there and hit bodies on a defensive end. Offensively, I'll run into people. And then Gabe will switch if you ask him / tell him to onto a 5-3-4-2 or guard the point. Like, those are the guys that you want to go to battle with that aren't scared of any matchup, no matter how big the name is, no matter what day of the week it is, no matter what time of the day it is. With those two out there on the floor, you always got a chance to get a stop.
Jimmy, you weren't really worried about the offense in the first two games at all, but was this what you felt was the best version of the team offense tonight?
No, I think we played kind of bad offensively. We got stagnant at times. We weren't moving the ball as well as we need to be moving the ball. We just made some shots. That was it. I think we could be much better on the offensive end, for sure on the defensive end as well. But I don't think this was like peak Miami Heat offense with all the weapons that we have. I don't think so at all.
Jimmy, I was going to ask you about the play late. You were trying to get into your bag a little bit, and it got called a travel. Just
That's
what
crazy.
was your take on that?
That's not a travel. I do that upstairs every day before the game, working on my footwork. I cannot believe he called that. Tyler, it's all good, man. We cool, but I was going to get a bucket if he didn't call it travel. Can't believe. All right, I'm out. Peace.
All right, that was Jimmy Butler talking about the game a couple of nights ago. The Miami Heat won, and they're 1-2 now in their first 3 games of the season. They face the Toronto Raptors again tonight before they go west for their first trip of the season. We're waiting for the Miami Heat to post their starting lineup tonight. Remember, no Caleb Martin, so we'll see what's the adjustment there in the starting 5 for Miami. Let's continue with our pregame coverage here, and the next one coming up is Tyler Herro, a short one, really short one. Tyler Herro from the locker room. Let's hear what he said.
Active, on the ball and off the ball. You know, guys are going to hit tough shots. You know, that's part of being in this league. But just continuing to make tough shots over and over and over, and just being disruptive. I thought we were a lot better tonight, and just being on a string. I thought we were together. You know, covering for each other, just playing hard, just firing around and making the next rotation.
Is this the best you've felt in your career
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm stronger than I was last year. I'll probably keep getting stronger with my age. You know, I'm still young, so yeah, I feel comfortable getting to the rim for sure.
How did you work on that? I mean, obviously being in the weight room and getting stronger, but how do you actually work on it?
I had one of my boys guard me and just sit right there, and I just drove into him, like actually, all summer.
And he would just push you back?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, that was Tyler Hero. It was a short one. Last game against the Toronto Raptors. That's what he said. That's the only questions that they asked him. So that's what we got. All right, let's continue with our pregame show. The next one coming up, it's Eric Spoelstra, the Miami Heat head coach, and what he saw from the team in that game.
There's always two ways to look at games like this. One is you were able to get up to a 24-point lead. The other part is then it got down to 3.
Yeah.
What changed? How concerning is it, or encouraging is the entire picture?
Yeah, when the result ends like this, I love all of the emotions and the experiences and just the game management, the emotional management, mental stability management, fourth quarter execution going down the stretch, but a lot of teaching points in that fourth quarter. And look, regardless of what happened, the way NBA games go right now, like if you have a 20-point lead, that could change anyway, fairly quickly. So it was unfortunate. Caleb feels bad about that. He was playing a great game, and it got pretty intense under the backboard. I wish it didn't come to that, but we were able to respond and be able to have a lot of contributions in that fourth quarter, different guys, and it wasn't necessarily the lineups that we thought we would go to, and ultimately we were able to come away with a win.
What was going on in that moment was obviously, bad enough, but when it happens like 3 feet from your bench, then you got to worry about guys getting
of course.
in. What were you seeing? How in that was, because it looked like it was going to get a lot worse there for a second.
It did, and I don't want to make light of it. It's different than the 90s, though. Of course, that's where I immediately go. I'm thinking about, getting everybody off that baseline. I thought Malik did a great job of keeping everybody on the bench, and it's just one of those emotional things that happened, and thankfully, it didn't escalate. I don't think it affected necessarily the tenor or emotions after that. It was an isolated incident between two players. Again, like I said, I wish it didn't happen, that way with Caleb. But it did, and then we had to manage that. They had some energy and the swing momentum after that. It could have looked a lot worse, but we were able to respond and make some big plays, going down the stretch.
Max has said that he could he feels like his game could fit in most lineups. How do you feel like he's adjusted back to the bench role, another 20-point game tonight?
Oh, very well. Yeah, Max can play with any lineup. He has that kind of versatility. He can play as a spacer, for your best players. He can also play with the second unit and be a little bit more of a trigger, which he was tonight. With more time, he'll probably enjoy this more. And if I asked him to start, he'd probably say no. I'd rather play in this kind of role. But he also is shifting, playing with both lineups, and that's probably the best of all worlds. But he's becoming much more complete. You saw it defensively tonight. He guarded, I think, I have to go to the film, but I think he guarded 1 through 5 against a very challenging team. They all put the ball on the floor. They're relentless, and you can't hide in a game like this.
Eric, it happens a lot. You could use a timeout. You have 2 left. Tyler's struggling against pressure. It seemed like there were some people trying to call it. How does this league get away of, when the officials clearly are looking on, all focusing on that, how can you get your timeout actually called? I assume you were trying to get one in that situation?
Yes, I was, and Kyle was right there. So he was closer to the officials. Tyler didn't see me, Tyler the official, but we were screaming timeout. It's tough. that's why I have made that point when I've gotten scolded for running out on the court. How else can you get somebody's attention at that point? I know I can. If I get on that wood and everybody says, oh, okay. But again, I think those things are good for us to go through together. Even though it's a familiar group, I love those late game situations just to gain more experience and figure out how we'll do it differently.
Another one on Max. He's never really been someone you only want to put in the shooter box, but how have you seen over the last year and then what he's taken from last year into this year as far as his inside the arc package?
Well, him and Duncan and, a few of our players have really worked, pretty diligently against the scouting reports that have been pretty consistent about getting those guys off the line. And they worked all summer long, all off season to be able to put the ball on the floor and make some plays. You saw some of the floaters, some of the finishes, but also the playmaking, which is important. Sometimes you get in there and you attract a crowd. They're used to being the recipients from that, but now they're setting up other guys on some of these kickouts, and that's not just by accident. That's from a lot of hours working behind the scenes and doing something specific based on how they've been defended.
I don't mean to ask you only about Max, but defensively, this felt like one of his better defensive games in terms of rotations and just kind of weak side help. What have you seen in that development in terms of just knowing when to make the timing of the weak side help to get the charge or of just rotating in general?
Yeah, well, last year I think was his biggest development in that regard. And he's just starting to now take another step forward. He feels very comfortable and confident now in our system. And so now he's a little bit more of a playmaker, a little bit more instinctual. Like I said, he has the versatility to be able to guard different positions. And he likes taking the challenge on the ball, particularly if teams, call him up and try to get him in a switch. He wants that kind of challenge. But then weak side, he's worked diligently, for really two years plus now, understanding weak side rotations. And he's good because he's bigger, and he also is willing to put his body in the fray and take charges and take hits.
With Vic out, how important has Gabe's kind of off-ball, on-ball versatility been at that guard spot off the bench?
Really important. He's such a Swiss Army knife for a combo guard because he can guard up. He can guard 3s and 4s for somebody his height, which is really unique, but he has a very aggressive disposition. He can really get down in a stance. He likes taking the challenge on that. And when we went through all that foul trouble and then Caleb was out, we went, with a small lineup, and he was really guarding the forwards. That versatility, you never really know when you'll need it, but he's been doing that for a while, and he's a great understudy, to Kyle. Kyle's one of those guys that can guard up as well as anybody really in the history of the game, and Gabe really watches him closely. Okay, thank you.
All right, that was Eric Spoelstra talking about that first win of the season for the Miami Heat. We're looking to be 2-2 after the first 4 games of the season when they play the Toronto Raptors tonight, starting at 7:30. So we still have 25 minutes to go for that game to start. Let's continue with our pregame coverage. Let's now listen to Bam Adebayo, what he said today during shoot-around. Let's see what Bam said, and then we have Caleb Martin. So here we go, Bam Adebayo.
You guys have is sort of indicative of the way things are going to be in the East this year, where you're going to pretty much have a difficult game every single night, where maybe in the past it hasn't always been the case.
I feel like every game will be difficult. I mean, everybody's in the NBA for a reason. It's 450 of us. It's not like it's tens and thousands of us. It's 450. So, we prepare for every game like we need every game.
Opening 4 straight at home to start the season. Obviously, you guys started 1-2. How important is it to you to get a win tonight, get on the right track as you guys head out?
Yeah, I mean, just leaving here 500 and a two win win streak. It's good for the mental, good for the health, and it gives you clarity. Going in this road, we want to go in with a clear mind, clear head, and an opportunity to go above 500.
You got Precious on the other side. Obviously, he started here as a rookie. You were part of helping mold him as a rookie. So, what was that like, and what type of guy is he? What type of impression did he make on you?
First game?
Yeah.
I mean, Precious has always been one that, he wanted to learn. He wanted to be out there. So it's a good thing that he's out there. He's got that opportunity to spread his wings. But on the other hand, we don't want him being the athletic, energetic Precious that we know and love. But at the end of the day, he's on the other side now.
How has this game grown since you saw him as a rookie?
I mean, he's handling the open court more. He's talking more. Like you hear him now, he's initiating the offense now. They got him in a whole bunch of different spots.
And what was it like for you when people were making all those comparisons of, hey, Precious and Bam, these guys are going to be the same type of player? How was that for you when they first brought him in and getting to kind of mentor a guy who has a similar type of role?
I mean, he was like a sponge. That's how it was going in. Get in where you fit in, and then after that, once you find your groove, you excel at your role.
All right.
Black Lives Matter, people. Yes, sir.
All right, that was Bam Adebayo today at Shoot Around. Let's close our pregame coverage for the day with Caleb Martin. Remember, Caleb Martin is not going to be able to play tonight. He's suspended for what happened in that Game 3 of the season against the Toronto Raptors a couple of nights ago. The takedown that got him suspended for one game. Here we go, Caleb Martin.
Yeah, I definitely expected something like that to that degree. I mean, I knew they were going to look through everything and find out the proper consequences, and I definitely don't disagree with it. So.
When emotions died down, is something you felt bad about, like after?
Yeah, I mean, I felt bad that it happened. I was embarrassed last night. I was embarrassed the next morning, about how I handle things because I pride myself on being more professional in that. And anybody who plays sports understands like emotions get high, and especially at the highest level, sometimes it boils over. It's not the first incident like that in basketball history, but it's something that those are things I try to make sure I avoid. So I got to deal with the consequences, and I reached out to him last night. I talked to him last night and yesterday morning. Just let him know I apologize, and that's not the way I carry myself and condone. I don't condone that type of stuff. And obviously he was cool about it. We talked about it, and he understands, and he doesn't hold anything against me. So, I'm just glad as long as me and him are good and he understands where I'm coming from, then I'm good. Everybody else is going to obviously have stuff to say, but it's going to be good.
You called him? You texted him?
I texted him. Yeah. I got it.
Just because people have been asking, is there anything specific that kind of on that play that caused that, or was it just the culmination?
I think it was a combination of things, and I think towards the end, I mean, when that happened, I think that it was more that there was an elbow and an arm shoved in my back towards my neck, and that was the end of an accumulation of a couple of things that happened before that, and that was just kind of the boiling point, I guess. And I just, like he said, I think I watched one of his interviews, and I didn't even realize I approached him like that. So that's 1,000% on me. I think I took my momentum took me towards him, and obviously being upset, I didn't realize the placement where I was on the floor. But I got to take full accountability on where I at and being the initiator on that, the aggressor on that. And I would have done the same thing if I was him. I'd have stood up and stand up for yourself too. So I don't fault him for doing what he had to do too. And I gotta take responsibility on that.
Obviously, you don't want to see Nick get suspended, but
No.
you're so quick to respond to.
Yeah.
To
Yeah. I mean, it's good to know where the young guys are at, and I told him, obviously I appreciate that, and I don't think that Christian should have got thrown out or ejected anyways. You know what I mean? Like I said, he did what he had to do, and that was accumulation of a couple of things on my end. And I think that he might have got penalized a little too much for sure. But like I said, there's a couple of things that played a part to it. But overall, I got to be a professional when it comes to that and make sure I handle that the right way.
Cool. I don't think there needs anything else to be said.
Yeah. Appreciate y'all.
I mean, it's like you're playing basketball. It happens.
Yeah.
It's over.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's nothing personal. I told him that. I make sure I reached out to him and told him I owe him dinner. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, man. Like that's not how I like to carry myself, and I don't want to create that type of reputation for me. I like to be a professional, and like I told him, I said he's a rookie. I didn't even realize he was a rookie until afterwards, and then like I said, I remember being a rookie and scratching and clawing for playing time too. You want to do whatever it takes if you got to climb on somebody's back, and whatever the case may be, you want to try to earn playing time. So I don't fault him at all for the way he was playing, and that's just their culture. You know what I mean? I respect that. So sometimes it gets chippy, and that's just part of the game, man. It's a heated game with competitive guys. So. 100%. You know, I got to get Nick on the dinner too, so I'm coming out of pocket a lot right now. So appreciate y'all. Yeah.
All right, that was Kid Martin reflecting a little bit of what happened a couple of nights ago. His attitude in that particular moment was not the best way to handle things, but it is what it is, the heat of the game, and it happens to all professional athletes in different aspects, different moments of their career. So here we go. This is the end of our pregame show tonight. Thank you to Jermaine, to Pirana Borger, to Marco Aurelio Chévez Zelaya, to José Matos, la mamá de Nicola le quitó el celular por una semana, to Donnerson Durant Jr., to David Smith, Luis Miguel del Busto, Ernesto Castellanos. Thank you to all of you, Donnerson, Durant, Jacek, Depsy, also. There is Jordan Arlene, who was here earlier, also talking to us, Katie, Cedric, all of you. Thank you very much for being here. And remember, if you have not done so, please subscribe to our channel. We're trying to reach the 20,000 subscribers. We're trying to get a bigger family here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. And our coverage is just for you guys that don't enjoy that same coverage for coming from other media outlets. So we hope you enjoyed the game tonight. Remember, tonight in our post-game show, we're going to have another crossover with our friends from Miami Heat Beat. So be ready. Don't get surprised if you see something like that coming out of here in the post-game show. Remember, we are going to be having a crossover with them tonight. Have a good night. Enjoy the game. We'll have the live score going on here on our channel, and we will see you later tonight. Have a good night, and let's go Heat. Bye-bye. Oh, first, let me see before we go. Sorry. I know I was saying goodbye already, but let me check. I forgot to check once again. Let me check. They do have the starting 5. So it's Max Strus coming in. The starting 5 is Kyle Lowry, Tyler Herro, Jimmy Butler, Max Strus, and Bam Adebayo. That's the starting 5 for the Miami Heat tonight. So it's Kyle Lowry, Tyler Herro, Jimmy Butler, Max Strus, and Bam Adebayo. That's the starting 5 tonight. Remember, no Caleb Martin for Miami, no Scotty Barnes for the Toronto Raptors. Fernando, how you doing, man? Don't go. I have to go, but I will be back with the live score during the game so you guys can hang out and give us your opinion about what's going on during the game. Lucas, thank you. Jose, thank you. Jermaine, Jose Matos also, and Fernando Lopez. Have a good night. Enjoy the game, and we will see you guys later here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back soon. Bye-bye.